Innovative Educators with Brooke Folgers. Find community, find strategies, find hope. Welcome to the Innovative Educators podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Folgers, and today we're going to dig into a simple but important question. What does it actually mean to be an innovative educator? If I'm going to dare to launch this podcast and wrap the whole thing around those two words, innovative educators, then we should have a sense of what we're talking about here. And before I jump into that, I should also probably let you know who I am as an educator. I have spent most of my life doing things related to education, both as a student, as a camp counselor, as a public health educator in sub-Saharan Africa, as a classroom teacher in a public school in Seattle, Washington, now as an instructional coach. My whole life has revolved around education. Both my parents are educators. A variety of family members are in education and education-related fields. I live and breathe education. Through all my experiences with this, though, I would say that the way that education is functioning right now is not sustainable. We see such a lack of fulfillment with teachers, with students. If you're not in public education, but you're maybe in corporate, trainers, those receiving training, there's a lot of performative things happening in education when the whole point of education is to be equipping people with skills and competencies so that they can go out and do things to make this world better, to make an impact. So I really believe that education needs some innovation. We've spent centuries operating in a world where some people have access to knowledge and others just don't. Knowledge often functions as a locked room with only a few keys or a commodity that only a few people are allowed to have access to obtaining. And often access to knowledge, to education, is tied to money, race, geography, class, language. Too often in too many places, this is still true. I even see it in schools today, where adults in the room unknowingly or maybe even knowingly act as vaults of information. Kids are showing up each day and trying to figure out how to crack the safe and are never given the combination code, the key, whatever you want to consider it. They have to try and figure it out themselves. Meanwhile, educators are exhausted. Students are telling educators and telling us loudly they're not getting what they need. Our world is in a place where we need more than that from education. We need education to be something else. Education feels exceptionally isolating too when we are trying to make changes. Education feels increasingly devoid of hope when teachers are no longer considered skilled workers, when our pay doesn't feel enough to live in the cities where we love to teach. Education is sliding backwards, and I'm really not sure if we know how to move forward or if we're having enough conversations about how to move forward. We have to figure out how to innovate in education. And I would say from my experiences in talking to educators and students, there's three things I hope to help create through this podcast and through the community that I hope can be built around it. I hope that educators feel seen. I hope educators feel hope. And I hope educators find ideas on how to move forward with making change. For all these things to occur, feeling seen, feeling hope, having ideas, I think we need to talk about the word possibilities. Possibilities. By trade, I'm an English language arts teacher. I taught 9th and 10th grade English for a number of years. I was also an English major in college. Books and reading have always been such a huge part of my life, and I love words and breaking down words. So, possibilities. The word possibilities comes from the late Latin possibilitas, which comes from possibilis, which means able to be done. able to be done. I think often we use possibilities to mean something that might happen or is an option. But truly, the root of the word possibilities means it's able to be done. If we are not brave enough to try out possibilities to innovate education, we'll never be able to move forward. If we do not share stories of the possibilities that we enacted and what happened as a result of that, we will never have hope that things can change. And if we do not believe in the possibilities that a community of educators can bring about, then we'll never achieve the innovation we need. I'm a big believer that starting with possibilities is how innovation happens. Before I left the classroom to become an instructional coach, I I I embarked on a possibilities exercise with my students. These were students who I taught for over a year, and we'd expected to be together longer as teacher and students, but because of my new role, that was no longer going to happen. So while we were navigating the feelings of upset, the feelings of change, the feelings that come along with change, I told my students, I want to make the most of this change. I don't want to leave the classroom and enter this new leadership position without your voice being central to whatever I do, without the possibilities that you hope for to be the center of what I do. So every class period, we did a little exercise at a variety of charts around the room labeled with different titles. One said community, one said class schedule, one said first floor, like the first floor of our building, one said second floor for the second floor of our building, one said the world, one said class offerings. And on each of these pieces of paper, these big poster papers that I tacked up around my room, I had students stick sticky notes with possibilities. I asked my students to write down questions. All the questions had to start with, how might we? How might we? So students had a variety of sticky notes. They had a few minutes to look at a poster, think about it, and write down one how might we question on a sticky note. And I wanted to share some of these with you because I do think these questions really are they're the doorway for possibilities, and possibilities are the currency of innovation. So, here are a few of them that my lovely students came up with. How might we be able to make students heard? How might we be able to make sure everyone is able to be themselves? How might we make math joyful for people? How might we be able to express our emotions without us having to feel embarrassed? How might teachers listen before judging or making consequences because of the power they have? How might we make our teachers and administrators listen to what students have to say rather than ignore our concerns? How might we invite students to come to school? How might we make education worth it again? For anyone who thinks the kids don't know what's going on or don't have ideas on what needs to happen with education, I think that's a few statements to prove that belief false. Kids know exactly what's going on and know exactly what needs to change in education. I've held off on defining innovation because I think before I could define it, I really wanted to share some of that student voice to just show the level of thinking, the level of concern, and the level of change that needs to occur in education. This is not just about class period times being 55 minutes instead of 50, or school not starting till 8 a.m. instead of 7:30 a.m. This is much bigger. So innovation. Innovation my definition that I will be functioning with for forever is creating something new to deliver radical change. Innovation is creating something new to deliver radical change. So, as we embark on this journey together as innovative educators, how do we develop a mindset of possibilities? How do we look at education through the lens of possibilities? So, here's your homework. If you're an educator in any form, you've probably assigned homework. So now I'm going to assign you some homework. Find some sticky notes. I think we all probably have sticky notes in our workplaces. If not, scrap paper works just as well. But they need to be small pieces of paper, sticky note size, 3 inches by 3 inches. I want you to start with 3 sticky notes, thinking about your experience in education. What needs some innovation? And I want you to write down 3 things that come to mind with that same question starter I gave my students. How might we? So, for example, one thing with my experience in education that I know needs some innovation is teacher training. So, I could frame this as, how might we make teacher training effective, long-lasting, and worthwhile for educators? You don't need to come up with solutions. You don't even have to think about solutions. Solution implies one thing. We're functioning in possibilities. So these questions could result in a variety of creation that delivers radical change. So find 3 sticky notes and ask yourself, based on your experience in education, what needs innovation? Then write down your 3 how might we questions. If you haven't caught on already, the we is really important here because it's not how might I, it's not how might you, it's how might we. I think one of the biggest barriers to innovation and one of the biggest challenges in education is isolation. How might we, as a community of innovative educators? After you write down your sticky note, how might we questions, stick them up somewhere that you will see daily. And whenever you look at them, just think possibilities, not solution, possibilities. Possibilities are able to be done, and possibilities are plural, so more than one. What possibilities are you making room for? The Innovative Educators Podcast is here to help you create something new to deliver radical change in education. And you don't have to do it alone. We're going to find the way forward together. We'll find hope together, and we'll build community together. Once you write your how might we questions, post one in the comments below so we can start to build that community of innovation. So let's get after it, innovative educators. How might we? If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow the show so you don't miss what's next. Leaving a quick review really helps us reach more innovative educators. Join us next Tuesday.